Welcome back to another Canon Review. I'm your host Terry, and today we're talking about Black Panther. It is Black Panther night. Finally, ready to review this, man. I remember when this was first announced as far as the movie, we knew Chadwick Boseman and Black Panther, but as far as the actual movie, seeing it put together, Ryan Coogler and the cast, of course, we know the social media buzz and all that, and to see this finally come to fruition was a cool thing, man. It's just a cool character. At the end of the day, people gonna take away from this what they take away from it, but for me, this was one of the coolest characters. A character is not only a hero, but with that mantle of hero comes the mantle of king, and that in itself was cool. Then you throw in all the other things they got. So, but anyway, I'm gonna do a quick non-spoiler. You know, at this point, like I say, non-spoilers don't really make sense. I'm not gonna tippy-toe around things, but I can tell you some basic thoughts and suggestions, I guess. So I would say overall, definitely a good movie. As far as some of its flaws, I think it has some of the typical Marvel tropes that are a little predictable and that kind of water down the tone of the movie at times. But I think Ryan Coogler did a great job staying true and strong with the tone for the most part. It's a pretty smooth ride. At this point I started to think of it like a road. When we look at movies, we want to see how smooth the road is on the drive, and we want to see what the scenery's like. You know, the scenery's the CGI, the production value, the colors, all that. And then the road is more so the technical parts. And I think, the acting and all those things. And I think it was a pretty smooth ride with a couple bumps, but great scenery to look at the whole way through. So I give it that. And then some of the CGI might be a little weak, but that's pretty much, it's pretty much it. And I thought the way the movie's edited and kind of narrates, it does seem pretty long, and a little, slow at times, but overall pretty good. And then as far as the positives, pretty much what you would expect. Chadwick Boseman delivers as T'Challa. I think people are going to get a lot more out of Wakanda than you were expecting to see, and a lot more of the African feel. That's what I think overall Ryan Coogler did really well, is that he did put a consistent African tone in here. And I was worried about them commercializing it and making it more hip hop and African American, but losing the roots of Africa, even though fictional African plays still African. But I think he did a good job of avoiding that. He made it feel the way it should have felt the whole movie through. So hats off to a lot of people, all the performances. There was no bad performances in the movie. And yeah, it has a lot in it. So as far as a grade, I'm going to give it a minus. And excuse me, we give it an A minus. I think again, it's a really good movie, but then there's a lot of cool things they do in there that makes it an A movie for me. So that's my non-spoiler review. I would actually say you don't have to go see it opening weekend. I mean, if you don't mind crowds and stuff, go ahead. There's not too many big spoilers, to be honest. The story's kind of straightforward. So, I don't think you got to worry about things getting spoiled. The only reason I say you don't have to see it right away is because it does feel kind of long. Like for me, I was ready to go see it like 3 times this weekend. And I'm like, after the first time, I'm going to take some time to let it digest. So I would say go see it, within the first week. It doesn't have to be opening weekend though. So, all right. At this point, we're going into spoilers. So if you're still listening, I hope you saw the movie because I'm about to spoil some things. All right, so my negatives. And there's certain negatives I have that I understand are nitpicks and pet peeves, but there are some negatives that really do bother me, and I'm probably gonna jump all over the place. I just saw the movie, but I would say number one, the CG is pretty bad in places. It's not bad throughout, but there's places where it's pretty bad. I remember, the last one we got was Thor Ragnarok, and I felt the same way where for the most part, a lot of the colors and the grand scale stuff is cool, but it's the singular CGI characters that looked pretty rubbery. And the same thing with Spider-Man Homecoming. So there's something I've been noticing. I think these Marvel movies are growing in scope, and especially with something like Black Panther, they want to show so much that, even if you got a big budget, you can't make everything look perfect. And so it's not a situation like Jungle Book where all your money went to special effects because you only had one real actor. So it's not that. And I understand that, but I feel like there's certain things they could have scaled down and really made the CG better, or just do stunt double and do some live action fighting instead of trying to do CG models. So I don't know. For me, CG bothered me a lot. One in particular is a scene that I love, or a sequence that I love, where he goes to the ancestral plains or whatever they called it to see the other Black Panthers. And while everything's great about it, except Chadwick Boseman is so obviously on a green screen, like a cheap green screen. It just looks ridiculous to me. So CG is a theme in it that kind of bothered me. And then I think it suffers for some, not tonal issues. Again, it's just pockets. Nothing in this movie is striking. It's just pockets where it throws you off. It's those bumps in the road. There's tonal there's parts that are Marvel, that the quips, the jokes, and it undercuts the drama, and they do that. Not every movie has that issue. Some have it more than others, but this one I definitely felt like with this character, and not only this character in particular, but the story you were telling with T'Challa and with Killmonger, some of the stuff they didn't need. And I could get his sister being a goof, but T'Challa didn't have to be in on the jokes. It's the same way I felt about Batman and Justice League. Like, T'Challa's a serious dude. He could be warm at times, but he's a serious, laser-focused dude. And if you want to, juxtapose him to his sister and other people and make a joke, fine, but don't make him jump in on the jokes. That to me just kind of made me lose it a little bit, because I just love Black Panther and Civil War. He was so stoic, so regal and royal. Now, of course, his dad died. That was his storyline, but he was so laser focused. And I think that's when I love seeing him as a king. He can have vulnerable moments with his dad and stuff, but he don't have to be a jokester. And he wasn't terrible. It's just some moments didn't need it. And yeah, it's a decent amount of that throughout the movie. So the tonal issues, the tonal pockets, and then the CG. And like I said, it's tough. Okay, me and Michael B. Jordan, we have a love-hate relationship. I think he's a good actor. I think he's a really good actor, but I think people praise him a little too much for his ability to play black male. And he's not that great at it. Like, you could tell he's just not that dude. He could be from wherever he's from, but you could tell that he's not the dude he's playing. Even in Fruitvale Station, which I thought was his best shot at it, there's times you just tell that that's not, he's not that type of dude that he's portraying. And then in Creed, I thought he was decent in Creed. People loved him in Creed. I'm like, he's really overacting / doing the caricature of an angry black man, and he kind of did that in this movie too. There's times where he's really good, but there's a lot of times I'm like, okay, Michael B kind of showing you what he thinks of a black person, or a black dude in America, a street dude, or whatever you want to call it. It seems like that's his version of it, and it doesn't resonate with me a lot like Luke Cage did it in the Netflix series. So I'm not saying it's bad. That's one of the nitpicks. I think overall he's pretty good, but that's just one of those things. I'm like, okay. And then I'm kind of blanking. Like I said, a lot of it is nitpicks. If I remember, I'll bring it up, but I didn't have too many problems. Again, the movie, I have to watch it again. I don't know if it's the editing or what, but it seems long. And Civil War seemed long to me. I know people disagree with me with that, but I don't care. That movie feels like 3 hours. And this movie felt super long. I know it was 2015. My brother, it was funny. He looked up the runtime afterwards and was shocked. He was like, man, that movie felt like it was 3 hours. I was like, yeah, it really did. And even though you engage with the movie the whole time, I just think there's chunks there's sequences in the movie definitely for me that I would have took out and dedicated that time to other things. So this is more so me kind of reimagining the movie to what I would do. I didn't come in with these assumptions. It's just after watching it, thinking about what I would have done. I just feel like you could have did more of a straight tale of two sides of the coins with Eric Killmonger and T'Challa, showing their journey up into the climax or whatever. Because what they did with Eric is that they gave you an opening scene, and then they kind of went into present day, and then they came back like, oh no, there's more in that opening scene we didn't show you. And then they came back again when he had the vision. Oh no, there's more in this opening scene that you didn't know. And it was just like, okay. And then we get to hear his background through dialogue. And it was like, we could have just started the first 30 minutes with that opening scene, then go straight into how Killmonger came up. Or not came up, but how he got to the point where he's at present day, and then get into T'Challa and stuff like that. I don't know. I think it could have been a true back and forth between Killmonger and T'Challa rather than doing these, the other stuff they did. Oh, one thing I also don't like, and this isn't major, but they killed Ulysses Claw. This is a Marvel thing I don't like. I get that they kill villains or whatever, fine. But they sometimes pick the main villain. Like Ulysses Claw is Black Panther's main villain. That's the one you don't kill. Like when you think of, you don't kill the villain that you think of when you say the hero. You think of Captain America, you think of Red Skull. You say Black Panther, his biggest villain is Ulysses Claw. He's always trying to get uranium. He's trying to get vibranium. Same thing goes for Ant-Man. Ulysses Claw is actually a big rival of Hank Pym. And so it's just like, you could have did so much with him. Plus, Andy Serkis is so talented. Why did they feel the need to kill him? I don't understand. Like, fine, you kill Eric Killmonger at the end. He's not a big name villain. But Claw, that's somebody that the Panther could have been battling with for years. So I don't know what their strategy is going forward in the next phase with all these villains they be killing, but I don't know. I guess the big bad is more important than the solo movie villain, but I don't know. I wish they didn't kill him. I thought he was doing great. Yeah. And then, of course, the overt stuff Ryan Coogler did in there. I still praise him for keeping the tone appropriate, but he definitely threw in some blatant, like, I don't even know what the correct term is, but he threw in some blatant, like, Black Power stuff, for lack of a better term. And it was like, okay, that wasn't subtle at all. It was just really on the nose. But I was afraid of that. But okay, at least it wasn't too much. But anyway, I don't want to seem like I'm nagging on this. We go to the positives. There's 1,000 positives to talk about. Chadwick Boseman, and Sterling K. Brown and Lupita Nyong'o, they are great actors. They are great actors. And it's every time they're on the scene, it's just like, I went into this like superhero movie. It's a Marvel movie. It's blockbusters, popcorn, but they just elevated it. When Chadwick goes to those places as T'Challa, he just elevates this movie. And Sterling K, with the whole opening scene and the whole part he played in California, he just elevates it. It felt like, I just saw Chadwick Boseman and Sterling K in Marshall, which was Black-centered, but, very different. And the motion and power of those scenes are evident because of the content. But for them to bring that performance into a movie, a superhero movie, this, it feels like some of those top tier movies, like a Dark Knight, for me, like a BVS or a Man of Steel, something like that. So it just feels like you get a lot more weight in a superhero movie that you didn't expect. So I just love them. I thought they absolutely stole the scenes when they were there. And Michael B, again, when he was on, he was really on as Killmonger. So I give him that. The biggest praise I want to give is to the story. And I definitely want to credit Coogler, but this is definitely a Marvel thing. This isn't the first time this happens. When you just really step back and look at the source material they're handed, that they're working with, whether it's the character or specific storyline, and you see how they mold it into the MCU and mold it into a 2018, realistic storyline, it's absolutely impressive. And like I said, they've done it with many movies. Because I'm not deep into the comics, but I know enough to know what certain origins were and this and that. And so to see them turn things. Now, I'm not one of those people that's going to get into Man-Ape being a racist name or whatever. I think his actual name is M'Baku. He's the one from he's that big guy from the tribe. I'm not going to remember all these actual names, but I wasn't one to say that was a racist thing, whatever. But to see that they made the decision to change him to be more realistic, because if he was half ape, it would have looked absolutely ridiculous. So to make it more realistic in the way they changed him and in the fur and the tribal wear to make that fit, that was great. But bigger than that is this storyline where a lot of people, and again, I was scared that this movie was going to go into too much African American more than African. And a lot of people was, trying to push for that because that's what Ryan Coogler's good at. But so I was worried about that. And while they didn't do it too much, they did find a way to put it in there in a smart way, where it was this whole idea that goes far back of Africa letting their quote unquote people get taken and go to America where they're oppressed, and having the resources to help them, but not actually helping them. And so that's a bigger idea, but then we boil it down to the brother of the king was spying in America, but he fell in love with an American woman. He's living in Oakland. He saw like pretty much the social climate of how black people were living in America, and he felt so compelled that he wanted to steal vibranium, not to profit, but to help people, to give it to people he thought deserved it so they can fight the oppressors. And then the king having the decision of having to respect or not respect, but to keep the integrity of Wakanda's secrecy, and also having to help people that were clearly in need. So I definitely saw the king decision coming for T'Challa, because you heard that line in the trailers, you're a good man. It's hard for a good man to be a king. And basically it's something we always see as a king, as a leader. You got to make the tough choices. You gotta, you can't save everybody, that type of deal. And so I thought it was smart though to bring in that whole African American plight thing to it. And it was so good how essentially, and I don't remember the character David Kaluuya or Daniel Kaluuya played, but essentially him, T'Challa, and Killmonger all had the same goal. It was just the way we're going to go about it. Similar to Civil War. We want the same thing. It's just the way we're going to go about it. But I thought it was a really genius way to morph Killmonger's backstory of growing up in America, being shunned from Wakanda, and they morphed it into a way that really worked with this movie. Now, was Michael B a little over the top? Hell yes, he was. Just bury me in the ocean when my ancestors was thrown off the boat. Okay. Ryan Coogler. Okay. But yes, I thought it was a genius way. And then a lot of the technology stuff they did was cool. I think sometimes they went a little too long trying to show us all the cool tricks, but I thought a lot of the way the technology worked, kind of with that bead or sand technology, was kind of cool the way that worked. And there was just some cool shots. Like, despite the nasty green screen, that first shot when T'Challa is buried in the ceremonial thing and then wakes up out of the dirt into another world in all white, where he meets the Black Panthers and then he's going to become out, black. That was cool. That was super cool. And then it was even cool when they did it with Killmonger and he didn't go to the Black Panther because he's not a Black Panther. He went somewhere else. He went somewhere with his dad. And so, I don't know, man. There was a lot of cool shots like that I liked. Excuse me. But yeah, overall, just a really, really good movie. it's just a higher level than other Marvel stuff. And I wouldn't say like, oh, it's black, so it's higher level. It's just they're leaning into things that they don't usually lean that hard, I should say. So like Doctor Strange, for example, there's a lot of different cultural aspects to that, Buddhist and whatnot, and places they go. But it's central to Doctor Strange, so they don't lean too hard into it. They just give you enough to understand the character. But with this, that's ingrained in who T'Challa is. And so they have to lean hard into it. And I'm glad that they let them lean hard into it. Yeah, I just think it was better for it. And it was great performances. And it shows you, like I said, it's cool things. Like, they didn't just make this stuff up recently. Black Panther had that. He had the all-female guard that was the best warriors there. You know, all that empowerment stuff and all that the stories of loyalty, you know, and duty versus what you actually feel. Like, that stuff's always been there with Black Panther. So it's cool to see it get on screen. And yeah, I'm just glad they kept true to the African stuff. And that stuff does ring. I mean, I know I talk about this more being about the movie, the character and whatnot. And for representation wise, I can't speak for anyone but myself, but that, to me, it always ring more true when it was Africa stuff. You know, that is our roots one way or the other. Whether you've been to Africa ever or not, something about that stuff just seems a little more powerful, a little more natural, a little more connected. And so had it been too Americanized, I wouldn't care that much. I see that stuff every day. It doesn't ring as hard to me in these movies like it does when it is dealing with Africa. So I'm glad that they did show us those visuals and that stuff. It was pretty powerful. So yeah, man, hats off to Ryan Coogler. He had a lot to juggle. So as I said earlier, my grade is a A-, a 90 if I had to give it a number. Definitely gonna buy it. Definitely gonna go see it again. Probably not soon or not this weekend, but definitely next week. I'll probably see it once or twice. Yeah, hopefully now that I know it's coming, it won't feel like it's as long. So, but anyway, that's all I got for right now. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Have you seen Black Panther? Give me your thoughts, your grades, all that, pros, cons, blah, blah, blah. Thumbs up, subscribe, share it around. And if you heard it, it's official canon.